Every morning at around 11, tourists can come to the Labram Monastery to listen to the afternoon prayers. But the only people allowed inside those halls are monks and selected donors for the day. So you'll see all the tourists up there congregated by the hall outside, just listening to the prayers. One thing you have to remember though is when you go, no cameras are allowed, so don't try to sneak any photos in.
Tibetan people are extremely devout and will make regular visits to the monastery to pray for their loved ones. One such occasion is when a relative leaves home. The entire family will visit the monastery, bringing with them yak butter for lighting candles and long pieces of silk called hara to pray for a safe journey. Apparently, you need to present your haras to the monastery before you pay homage before the statues of the Buddha, because presenting a hara, be it to a monastery or as a welcoming gift to a guest, is a sign of purity, respect, and loyalty. At the Labram Monastery, you'll find a special room dedicated to one of the most unique forms of Tibetan art, yak butter sculptures. Obviously, these models can only be made during winter when the butter is solid. Every year, the 6 colleges compete to make a yak butter sculpture that will be put on display. Because of its delicate nature, the sculpture usually only lasts about 6 months. When it gets too hot, the yak butter will be allowed to melt so that it can be used again in next year's competition. Aside from yak butter sculptures, another well-known art form, perhaps the most famous in Tibetan culture, is the tanka. This is a painting or embroidered banner depicting Tibetan Buddhist iconography, which you'll find hanging at monasteries and family altars. It's an ancient art form dating back to the late 13th century. Nowadays, even a small tanka can cost tens of thousands of RMB, and the value comes from the work put into the painting. Everything is handmade, from the canvas to the paints. The canvas is made from cotton or silk, with each layer tempered with an herb and glue solution, and the paints on their own are worth quite a pretty penny because they're made of precious stones and gold that have been grinded up. I'd heard of tankas before, but I had yet to see one, so it was a good thing that I didn't have to go far, because right next door to the Labram Monastery is a tanka art center run by a Tibetan monk.
简单的介绍的话，它是就是面部上面面部上面坑位那些画出来的一个建筑画，很多那个题材是什么题材都有，主要是佛菩萨佛像为主的这样的一个画，也是一个藏民族的一个怎么说呢，一个传统的一个特色的这样的一个画。现在的话就是国画、油画、唐卡3个是世界上很有名声的。完成一个唐卡的话，自重大小的话5、6个月，做工很细致的，蛮精致。
你现在教什么？你多少学生？
我现在整个甘肃、四川、青海的话，我教过学生也100多吧，差不多。但是这里的话不多，这里整个这里毕业的人呢，这里我们唐卡中心的话，目前我培养出来的5、6个老师，10几个学生这样的，以后慢慢变成一个私立唐卡艺术的那样的一个学院，我有这样的愿望。
Shirubu has over 100 students studying the art of tanka making under his tutorage. His only requirement when accepting a student is that he or she has a keen and dedicated interest in learning the craft. His students vary in age, backgrounds, and ethnic groups, and they travel from across China just to learn from him. The tanka is an ancient art form, and it's reassuring to see that it's being continued by this generation of students. While most people appreciate tankas for their aesthetic value, I bumped into a couple of collectors who told me that tankas are intended to serve as a record of and a guide for contemplation. So, Buddhists will never say that they're buying tankas. Rather, they're inviting them home with them. Now, for those of you who are not Buddhists, a tanka is still a beautiful piece of art to have at home, And a valuable one too, thanks to the paints, which are made to last so that there won't be any fading for at least 100 years. While I'm not Buddhist, I've always had great respect for its philosophical and spiritual teachings. A couple years ago, I spent some time in Myanmar, where I got to understand a little bit more about the teachings of Buddhism and how the monks live. I'm reminded of it again here as I watch the monks from the nearby Labrang Monastery walking about town. And I'm humbled by the dedication that they have to their faith and the simple lives they've chosen to lead.
Gannan is known as a backpacker's haven, so you'll find many hostels and small hotels here. The good thing about that is that not only is it reasonably cheap, well, it also has a local flavor.
If you're the kind of person who needs their creature comforts and can't stay anywhere with fewer than 5 stars, you may want to think twice about visiting Shaha. But if you're up for a challenge and don't mind sacrificing a little comfort in order to experience real beauty and perhaps gain a little self-awareness and spiritual help at the Labrang Monastery, definitely come. The road here isn't a smooth one, and while the accommodations aren't always shabby, it definitely won't feel anything like home. Then again, isn't that the point of traveling?
How many days have you guys been here?
You mean in this
area? Yeah.
Just one night.
Just one night? Right. What do you think is the best thing you've seen here?
The monastery is quite good.
Yeah, the monastery?
Yeah. And then the Tibetan is also very friendly and helpful.
Right, yeah. So, when did you arrive? Yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah, in the afternoon.
Okay, where are you going after this?
We will go to Langmu Si.
Langmu Si.
And then we will stay 2 or 3 nights maybe. We do some trekking there.
Yeah? Are you into hiking and stuff?
Yes.
Oh, yeah? Is that why you're here?
Less than a 20-minute drive away from Shaha, beside the Daxia River, you'll find the Sangha grasslands, named after the Sangha flowers that bloom here in summer and form a natural carpet over the terrain. This is the place to visit if you want to experience nomadic Tibetan life, horse riding, living with a local family, and tasting traditional Tibetan foods such as yak butter tea, mutton, and tampa, which is the traditional Tibetan staple food made from roasted highland barley flour. As beautiful as the grasslands are, though, I still recommend venturing to the lesser-known areas for a more authentic experience. Over the winter, temperatures here can drop to as low as minus 20 degrees Celsius. So in spring, during Xianglang Festival, entire Tibetan villages will pack their bags and head to the distant forest to stock up on wood for the coming winter.